Hello. In this video tutorial, I'll guide you through the process of executing automated tests using Python, Pytest, and Selenium in order to integrate your test results with TestRail using the TestRail CLI. We're going to accomplish this in 4 easy steps. For this tutorial, we are using PyCharm to navigate and execute our code. And we also have a Pytest sample project you can find on the TestRail GitHub repository, where we have all our code samples. Before starting, all you need to do is make sure you have Python installed. You can do that by opening a terminal and writing Python version. In case you have Python installed, this will output its version. We recommend using version 3.10 or above. Now let's go to step 1. Step 1 is to install the test project. What I usually recommend is creating a Python virtual environment so that you don't have any conflicts with existing entity dependencies in your global environment. So let's create one. Just go to File, then Settings. In the Settings dialog, under the Python interpreter, you can add a new interpreter here. Add a local interpreter and leave the default settings. This will install a new virtual environment. We're going to click OK, and it immediately installs the new environment. Now we have our base dependencies to get started with the project. Just click OK. We can see what our project dependencies are on the requirements.txt file. So Pytest, Selenium, and the WebDriver Manager are our dependencies. And we can see that it's complaining because we have not installed them yet. We could right-click here and choose Install Packages, but let's execute the script that we have here and run pip install requirements.txt. I'm going to close this console and open a new terminal. This will open the terminal inside our virtual environment, so it will use the Python instance in our virtual environment. Now we are executing our pip install command. In just a couple of seconds, you will have everything installed. There we go. If you execute pip list now, you'll see that we have a lot more dependencies than we had initially. Now we can go to step number 2. To run our tests, we can simply run this line in our terminal, and the tests would run as expected. But before that, just let me walk you through our test project and highlight some of the most important aspects of it. Our test cases live in the tests folder. Over here, we can see a conf.test.py file, which is the file that contains our setups and teardowns for tests, and 2 test files. We know that these are test files because they have a test underscore prefix, which is also how Pytest knows that these are tests. The test homepage is a Python file which has a class. And inside this class, we have 2 methods. Each method is a test. We have one test for the header links on the TestRail website, and another one for the action links. Each one of these methods has the browser driver and record property parameters. These are Pytest fixtures, which can be used for setups and teardowns or to add functionality to our tests. For instance, record property is used to add properties to JUnit reports. The TestRail CLI will parse properties with specific names to enrich the test results uploaded to TestRail. What we are doing here is using the record property method to submit properties with the name TestRail result comment. This will append the comments to our test results. In this case, we are using these to add our test steps. So this will be our first test step. Check the platform link. We can see the action is to find the element with platform on its href and check if it's displayed. Then, the same for enterprise and pricing. We have the same pattern for the action links. This test here, we are making it fail on purpose so we can see everything that we can add to our test results. Note that record property is a fixture that is already bundled with Pytest, but we can also create our own fixtures, which is the case for browser driver here. We created this fixture to initialize and close our browser. In the middle, there are some other actions. Let's see how we implemented it. The fixture lives inside the conf.test file we mentioned before, and we can see that it simply initializes a WebDriver and performs teardown actions as per the description. It executes the setup driver method, which we have right below, creates a WebDriver using Chrome, sets a couple of properties such as the waits and timeouts, opens the web page we want to test, maximizes the window, and returns to the driver so we can execute further actions with it. And then it uses the yield keyword to yield the driver. What this means is that it goes back to the test execution, so our test methods are going to be executed. And then it proceeds to save failure artifacts and close our driver. As for save failure artifacts, this is also custom code we did to check if the test failed or if the test setup failed. In case it fails, it will save some artifacts, create a reports folder if it does not exist, and save a screenshot and browser logs. The important bit here is that it also uses the record property method. In this case, we are not using the comments functionality, but the attachments functionality. We're going to name the property TestRail attachment, so we can attach a file to our test results. And we are passing in the paths. The TestRail CLI will find the files and upload them to TestRail within the test results. This will allow you to enrich your test results. Before executing our test cases, there's another small but very important detail, which is in the pytest.ini file. To make use of the record property, we need to have this configuration, a JUnit family that must be set to legacy. Okay, let's go back to our script and execute our tests. All we need to do is run this line. The only particularity you need to be aware of is that you need to pass the JUnit XML option here to generate the JUnit report. And the value should be the path of the report. Now I'm going to reopen the terminal over here and execute our tests. It collected 3 tests, and it's now going to execute the footer tests. You can see it opens the TestRail website and quickly performs some checks. Now, it's going to do the same for the homepage test. This one takes a little longer because it's not finding what it should find. And we can see that 1 test failed, which was expected, and 2 tests passed. We can now find our test reports and artifacts in the reports folder, as we specified on the command line, as well as on the code itself. Here's the reports folder. We can find our browser logs here, which has a warning message that we can investigate further. We also have a screenshot showing the page where the test failed. And we have our JUnit report, which I'm going to format using Ctrl-Alt-L, just to make it look prettier. Now we can see our test suite here, our test cases and details. For instance, we have our test social links, which doesn't have a lot in it. Then we have our header links test, which has a couple of properties like we specified. It has a couple of comments, and these comments will be added to our test results in TestRail when we parse this report using the TestRail CLI and upload the results. The test action links. We wanted it to fail on purpose so we could have our test artifacts. Again, it has our comments. There is step 1 and step 2. After step 2, the test failed, and we can see the failure message here. There's a big stack trace generated by Pytest itself. We have our properties and our attachments here with the path to our artifacts, the screenshot and the browser logs, which will be parsed by the TestRail CLI in order to upload these files to our test results. Now that we have our JUnit report, let's go back to our script and execute step 3, which is installing the TestRail CLI. It's very easy and straightforward. Just execute pip install trcli in the terminal, and in a couple of seconds, we will have the TestRail CLI available. You can check that it was properly installed by simply writing trcli, and it should output its version. Last but not least, we are going to upload our test results. We can see the command on our script up here, and we just need to invoke the trcli and pass the Y option. This will enable you to create all the entities in a code-first approach, which means that we first wrote our tests in the code, and they will be automatically created by the CLI in TestRail. Then, we have a couple more parameters to inform, like your TestRail instance and how we are going to authenticate the U and P, which is your username and your password, and the name of the project where you want to create your test cases and submit your results. In the parse JUnit functionality, these are the minimal set of parameters, which is just a title for your test run and the file that has the JUnit report. Without further ado, let's run this and see what happens. The TestRail CLI found 3 test cases, and it's now checking the project to see if we have our automation ID field in place. Now it's starting to create our entities. First, the 3 test cases that don't exist in TestRail yet. Note that if these test cases already existed, and we have the automation ID in place, the TestRail CLI would not duplicate the test cases, but add new test results in our new test run, which was just created. Here you can find a link to the test run. Our results and attachments have been uploaded as well, so now we can go to our TestRail instance. I have my instance open here, and I'm going to refresh this page so we can see that the tests were created. If we go to the Test Runs and Results tab, we should be able to see our test run. PyTest Automated Tests. By opening it, we will be able to see our test results with all the comments and artifacts. Let's check the test header link test result. We are able to see that these test steps were executed successfully. Then, if we open our failed test here, we can see that the first step was executed successfully and the second one has an error message. So there's a big stack trace here, which might help you to debug your test. Then we have our attachments here. Here we can find our browser logs and download them to our local machine. And here's the screenshot, which we can preview directly in TestRail. That's it. This is one way to integrate automated tests with TestRail, creating test cases and submitting test results automatically using Python, Pytest, Selenium, and the TestRail CLI. Now you can manage all your testing efforts in a single source of truth and bring visibility into your test automation.